What a good boys, me and Chris on the internet one day. Chris said to Neil, let's make a podcast, boy. Come on now, what do you say? Well, what will this podcast be about? Said Neil with a tear in his eye. Without stories that people tell each other from Louisiana Pie to the city of Mumbai. Oh, you mean Urbane Legends. And the podcast was Urbane Legends with Neil and Chris. You take care, y'all. Go. And welcome to this week's episode of Urbane Legends, the podcast about urban legends and urban legend adjacent paraphernalia. I am window salesman Chris Flynn, and with me, we're very lucky, it's ex-Mousketeer, Mr.
Neil Herbert.
Hi, Neil. How are you doing this week?
Yeah,
Hey.
good man, good.
Good, man. How was it being a Mousketeer? Was that the same time as Justin and Brittany and Christina?
Yeah, if you like, might as well.
Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, and Christina Aguilera are all Mousketeers at the same time, and you're about the same age as them.
Yes, definitely, I am. Yeah, well, it'd be roughly the same age. Yeah, I kind of like. I mean, I tell you what, you know, it could be a bit of a tough racket if you're not one of the top Mousketeers. Yeah,
well, you're a bit of a bit part player. You sort of came in as the bully, didn't you? In the kind of ones where they were teaching lessons and how to be nice to people.
Yeah, and I'll just sort of come in and say something stupid or whatever.
Was it because
learn the lesson?
Was it because one of the producers saw you beating up some kids on a street corner and went, "Hey kid, have I got a role for you?" Like that.
It was bullying one of his kids, actually. Yeah, you got Moxie. I like it.
Yeah,
instead of pushing his child out the way and
taking his dinner money.
Yeah.
And was this when you were
hustle.
Was this when you were living in Santa Barbara as a kid?
Yes. Yeah. As you know, that's why I've got quite a strong American accent.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, your British accent, which you do for this podcast, is it's okay. It's not great. Yeah,
it's not brilliant. It veers towards Mockney a bit, doesn't it?
It's a little bit Mockney.
Yeah, it's a bit sort of flat south. It's a bit, kind of bit London, but yeah.
Bit Dick Van Dyke, to be honest.
Yeah, so that's where I did most of my vocal training, just watching Mary Poppins.
So presumably you got a fully rounded performance training, so singing, dancing, acrobatics, circus skills.
Fire swallowing. All the Disney arts.
Disney arts.
Mickey's a tough taskmaster, I tell you what. Because you are actually taught by a guy in a Mickey Mouse costume. He never breaks character. Yeah, it's quite.
Is it just a Mickey Mouse mask and nothing else, or is it like the full costume?
No, it's a full costume. Yeah.
Oh, it's a full costume. And is this on some kind of compound?
Yes. You go to a large compound in Texas, and then you have to. Yeah, I can't actually disclose the various different ceremonies and rites and things you have to drink, but.
Do you have to sacrifice
the elixirs and compounds?
Do you have to sacrifice one of the Mousketeers in front of a wooden statue of a giant mouse in the woods?
If that were the case, then I wouldn't be free to talk about it. So you can free to speculate all you want.
Is it true that as part of this, you divorced your parents and were legally an adult at the age of 7?
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, you moved.
Yeah. And I felt I was my legal counsel agreed I was definitely the best arbiter of my own money at that point.
This was, of course, at the point which you started falling into the party scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot of hanging around with
Bobby Culkin.
yeah, McCulkin and what's his face, the other one, Corey Feldman, etc.
Yeah. But I mean, you managed to get over the drugs for now. You know, obviously,
not really. I got crippling heroin addiction.
Yeah, I know, but
I'm more track mark than man.
But it's not as bad as it was. You're not doing speedballs anymore.
Not currently.
No, I mean like this minute.
Yeah.
Which actually, which is a nice break from our normal recording sessions. Oh well,
see how it goes.
Are you thinking of having some sort of comeback, like they all do?
I mean, everyone else gets one, don't they? So you think they've got to get round to me in the end.
I've heard that they were tapping you up to join the reunion tour of the Backstreet Boys because, of course, one of them has disappeared. So they were going to get you in as kind of a familiar face.
Hey, why not?
Hey, why not?
I think I've earned it.
Cool. Will you keep us abreast of the situation? Put tour dates, tickets.
I absolutely will. We won't just forget that we've had this conversation immediately after we've had it. Yeah, another character I know nothing about.
Okay, well, thanks for being so open.
Well, no, that's fine. Well, I've got to kind of ask you, Chris. So you're doing your window sales. I mean,
double glazed, yeah.
Double glazed. So top class.
Keep the heat in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's quite important in this day and age, isn't it? With the energy bills all going up.
Energy bills all going up. It being an almost constant heat wave. You want to keep that heat in, and hopefully it will last until next spring. So, then you don't have to put your heating on if you can just keep it all in. And I've got the windows are made with very high quality polyurethane, which I get from Turkmenistan.
Classy looking, nice.
Yeah, Venetian glass.
Does that release any toxic fumes in this heat that we know of?
Well, not that we know of. No, I mean, all I can say is it's got its safety certificate from Turkmenistan. So you would imagine probably not.
I mean, by now, all of the reports and customer complaints, would they not sort of like tip you off that might be happening?
You know what? I sell one. I haven't managed to sell one yet. People aren't really in the mood for buying windows that keep heat in during a heat wave. So that was a bit of, but I've got a lockup full of them, so I'll keep pressing on.
Okay, press on. What's your technique? Just, come around for a cup of tea and then stay for about 5 hours?
Yeah. Basically stay till it's so uncomfortable that they will buy anything to get me to leave. Because as you know, I'm a hefty man.
Yeah.
And the police aren't going to come. So because I've cut the phone wires and obviously I've got a mobile phone blocker on.
Oh no, it's fine. I can stay for dinner.
Of course. Oh, I'd love to stay over. Thank you. Don't mind if I nail the door shut, do you? That kind of thing. Yeah, I mean it's a hard sell technique, but this day and age, you've got to, haven't you? The soft sell's dead. The band and the sales technique. So you've got to go in for the hard sell because people, because of all the costs going up, don't have that much money. So you've really got to, if you want to be the one to get that last bit of money, you've got to go in hard, 2-footed.
Yeah. Otherwise, they might spend it on something like meals for their kids or eating at their house.
Don't need that. I mean, who knows if the kids will be around much longer? What with the frankly ridiculous amount of toxins that these windows let off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're saving money hand over fist, and it's good for the environment because the toxins released are easily counterbalanced by the fact that you've got a nice insulated house and the fact that anyone younger than 7 can't survive in a house with these windows in, and having children is the thing which gives you the biggest carbon footprint. So,
there you go.
There you go.
Always a silver lining.
Always a silver lining
situation.
So, if anyone's interested, email us at the normal address, and I'll backtrace the email address. I'll use your IP, go on the dark web, find out where you live, and I'll be round in a second. Me or one of my associates.
So I believe what you've done there, Chris, is you've classic sales technique. You've turned a negative.
Oh, yes, you've got to.
Oh, my child's died. Yeah, but what about the impact on the environment?
Exactly. And
good point. I'll have them put in the rear as well, please.
And your wallet.
Yeah. Nice. Right. Okay. So moving swiftly on.
What are we going to be talking about this week, Neil? I believe that you are riding this merry sleigh all the way to the Laplands of your legends.
Yep, bells ringing all the while, telling us all about America's greatest ghost story.
Ooh, that's a fucking bold claim.
It seems like that's the claim that's made every fucking
of
week,
every ghost story.
I think all of America's ghost stories are the greatest ghost stories.
Well,
but it's an exceptional country, so
the one thing which we can say about our cousins across the pond is they are not keen on hyperbole.
This is indeed true. But let the listener be the judge.
Oh yeah.
We just put these out there, so. And I'll be honest. So I'll be largely my source today will be from www.bellwitch.org.
Right.
So they might be slightly biased.
Is there a clue?
A clue to what? A clue to the
to what it's going to be.
Yes. Oh, sorry. So there is a clue because I haven't introduced it yet, have I? It's the story of the Bell Witch.
But I thought they said ghost story. Hmm. Oh, is it a ghost witch?
It may well be.
Which is what we'll all be eating this winter.
Yeah.
Nice, delicious round of ghost witches.
Okay, so
imagine you're full.
The legend of the Bell Witch centers on the John Bell family of Red River, Tennessee, now Adams, and the spiritual haunting they endured between 1817 and 1821. So that went on for 4 years there, Chris.
Yeah.
Unlike
you don't know what month in each it was, so it might not have.
No. You're less worried about these things in those days.
They didn't have months back then, did they?
Yeah, no. They don't go back to, the Roman calendar or anything.
Yeah, what is it? It's growing, hot, dying, or cold. Those are the 4 things.
Yeah, the moon hath waxed and waned 3 times or 6 times. What matter it to you? Not like that would be important for farming or anything.
We had a super moon last night, didn't we, in the UK, and I think most of the northern hemisphere. But I saw it because I was out cycling.
Okay.
Unrelated, and presumably because we've got terrible fires and droughts in Europe at the moment. It was red. It was massive and red.
Blood supermoon.
Blood supermoon, yeah. So we won't be hearing
name for a prog band if it hasn't been taken.
We won't be hearing from Chongo again because obviously I had to sacrifice him instantly. Chongo, who's my friend who I was cycling with, just to fill in the blanks there.
There's 3 people who got that joke.
Nah, probably not that.
I mean, you and me.
I didn't really get it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure what you were talking about. Fair enough.
I was confused.
So unlike many films and ghost stories, this early 1800s Tennessee haunting involved real people and places. No one has yet to solve it or even come close.
Have many tried?
We'll find out. These distinctions. Well, actually, there has been one theory from a.
The fucking Warrens been at this.
The Warrens haven't had a go, and
unbelievably,
they haven't had a go.
Although they tend to do stuff that's happened where they can go and where it's kind of
they can sort of see that. No,
they're doing people and that
paranormal investigations of current things. They're less historians. They're more they're problem solvers.
Yeah, and do it by gut.
Yeah, exactly. No, they sort people out. They're like a kind of like the ambulance service of paranormal investigations.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting the job done in real time.
The St. John ambulance.
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll come on to it later, but there was one lady who's come on to who has some theories around one of the deaths. So these distinctions.
That's actually what I'm looking, because I'm on the market at the moment now. Yeah. That's actually kind of the number one trait which I'm looking for in a partner. Like if they've got kind of on their profile interests and I have some theories, then they're top of the pile for me.
Yeah, that's a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to hear a few theories.
Right, so these distinctions have led Dr. Nandor Fedor, a noted lawyer turned parapsychologist.
Yes.
Not sure which of those 2 professions I'm more enamoured with.
Scared of.
To call the legend America's greatest ghost story. Well, there you go. That quote is taken from Dr. Nandor Fedor. Fodor. Fedor. Fast forward 200 years and the Bell Witch legend is still making waves. All right, it was America's greatest ghost story 200 years ago, but yeah.
It's still making waves now.
Yeah.
The ripples.
Numerous Bell Witch books, several Bell Witch movies and documentaries, and there's always several more in the works.
Including our stage musical.
Yep. Regardless of whether the case's origin was spiritual or human, it remains an epic classic American haunting and a whodunit mystery like no other. I think they might be overselling it slightly, to be honest with you. But anyway.
It is the one thing that this website is. So
yes. hey, and they do have a little sort
Wouldn't mind him on my sales team, Neil.
Yeah, he's got moxie.
This person shifts some windows.
They got a little
deadly
PayPal
windows.
button, so they can make a bit of
deadly windows, which are actually, because they're from Turkmenistan, they don't actually fit standard British windows.
Well, so it may be that
you've got like a 2-inch gap all the way around that you have to fill in with like foam,
with arsenic foam, and
asbestos.
Yeah, well,
asbestos bricks. Yeah.
Why not? And no one else is using it for anything, are they?
Exactly.
Get it cheap, sell it high. That's the way. Okay, so the Bell family prior to the haunting. In the early 1800s, John Bell moved his family from North Carolina to the Red River Bottomland in Robertson County, Tennessee, settling in the Red River community, which later became the present-day Adams, Tennessee. Purchased some land, yada, 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 acquired more land, owned 328 acres, so they're pretty wealthy.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what's on the land.
And he became an elder of the Red River Baptist Church. John and his wife, Lucy Bell, had 3 more children after moving to Tennessee. They were very happy and successful early life at the Red River settlement.
Yeah, drinking all that bourbon.
But
bourbon and barbels. That's what they were into.
Hey, well, fair enough.
Bourbon, barbecue and barbels.
If God didn't want us to drink bourbon, he wouldn't have made it tasty.
Exactly. Didn't want us to have barbecues, he would have made it also tasty.
Boyd Crowder would say. But strange occurrences then start commencing from 1817. So he was inspecting his own cornfield when he encountered a strange-looking animal sitting in the middle of a corn row. Shocked by the appearance of this animal, which had the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit.
Sounds quite nice.
Yeah. He shot several times. The animal vanished.
It's just a dog with long ears.
Well, so you say.
It was an Alsatian or something.
This is the first documented manifestation of the entity. Bell thought nothing more of the incident. Yeah, it's just a rabbit's head on a dog. Don't worry about it. At least not until after dinner. That evening, the family began hearing beating sounds on the outside walls of their log home. Well, I wouldn't really say he thought nothing more of the incident then, if he started, whatever.
Went home. He didn't think about it during dinner.
Yeah.
He can only think about one thing at a time.
Well, he's busy getting his scran on, isn't he?
Is it staffies that kind of like look, they've got a face like a bullet? They've got quite Staffordshire Terriers.
Yeah, I get. I mean
that could be kind of rabbit-like.
This guy's like a farmer, though. I imagine he would be able to tell the difference between a.
Well, he's a corn farmer.
Yeah.
Corn doth not dog equal snow, I believe the saying goes.
Yeah, that was Darwin, I believe, who said that. Oh, well, anyway, do you know what? It's all going to ramp up soon anyway. So, they've got a photo as well, and then said the entity allegedly turned a man into a mule, and there's no text to explain that comment whatsoever. I don't know. And it's just a picture of like a mule with a man's head face and 2 spirits. I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, so there was banging outside, and then he turned a man into a mule.
Well, no, there's an image of just like a.
There's just an aside.
Yeah, and it's just an aside. It's like, oh yeah, it's not worth getting into in the text here, but FYI, apparently turned the bloke into a mule. Which bloke? Don't worry about it. Seriously, don't worry about it.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
he's still there now, but don't bother going to see him.
So the mysterious sounds continued with increased frequency and force each night. Bell and his sons often hurried outside to catch the culprit, but always returned empty-handed. They think it's, some pranks here, then I'll guess. Yeah. It's obviously somebody who's like stole a rabbit's head onto a dog.
We used to do that round the council estate, knock down ginger, where you'd what's the name of the game? Don't know why.
Just like knock on the door and run away.
Yeah, go and knock on people's door and run away.
Yeah, it's a bit irritating little fuck. Yeah, why not?
Well, it was actually probably quite deadly doing it where we did, because it's quite a rough council estate. So I think if you did get caught, because I didn't play it that much because I was scared.
Yeah.
Right. But if you got caught, like the person who came out could quite possibly be drunk and just hit you. So like, there was some real jeopardy in doing it round the council estate.
A bit of a thrill ride then.
Yeah. Why keep your bike near?
Well, I imagine, John Bell would have been swift the distribution justice as well. So
Firing in the air.
yeah, exactly. In the weeks that followed, the Bell children began waking up frightened, complaining that rats were gnawing at their bedposts. Not long after that, the children began complaining of having had their bed covers pulled from them and their pillows tossed onto the floor by a seemingly invisible entity. So it sounds a bit like the Enfield poltergeist, doesn't it?
Yeah. Did it, of course, John Soul posted.
Well, they didn't have them.
David Soul didn't exist, did he? He hadn't been manifested by Aleister Crowley at that point.
Yeah. And
So,
just in case you think you're not getting the joke, listener, it didn't make any sense when we first made it. So don't worry about it. You can listen back to our Enfield poltergeist podcast to, I'd say, understand that joke, but it didn't really make any sense. But that's fine.
yeah, there's a lot of callbacks in these episodes, and we know that people only listen to 1 or maybe 2 episodes, so like a lot of it will fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, well, I just think it'd be like, you just got to enjoy the mystery, haven't you? It's a bit like, we have Lost or something, and they explain it, and then you're just like, that was a bit of crap.
It makes it feel like it's more in depth than it is. Yeah. Like there's a lore behind the stuff that we say.
Yeah, we're creating.
Well, there is. It works for us. Like we'll laugh about it because we're involved in both. But most people,
we've both got to amuse ourselves. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, step 3: Bell Witch develops a voice and starts becoming violent. Escalating.
So what happens when you give women voice?
As time went on, the Bells began hearing faint whispering voices, too weak to understand, but sounded like a feeble old woman singing hymns. The encounters escalated, and the Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy Bell, began experiencing brutal encounters with the invisible entity.
Always the girl, isn't it?
It would pull her hair and slap her relentlessly, often leaving welts and handprints on her face and body. So pretty brutal.
What is a welt?
It's like when you
red mark.
Yeah, it's like a red mark that's sort of raised from the skin, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. Rather than a bruise. So disturbances about which John Bell had vowed his family to secret finally escalated to the point that he shared his family trouble with his closest friend and neighbour, James Johnson.
Why didn't he tell the Baptist church?
Well, he wouldn't want to, devil getting involved.
That's the whole point.
It's embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're like your insurance policy, aren't they? Like that's the whole reason you go, so that you don't have to put up with
this kind of nonsense.
Go slapping your kids about.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. You're trying to get in God's good graces, isn't it?
Well, he might be. Well, we don't know what he's up to, do we? He might have a guilty conscience.
What, God?
Well, yeah, possibly.
Well, probably.
Yeah. So, sceptical at first, Johnson and his wife spent the night at the Bell home. Things began peacefully, but once they retired for the evening, they were subject to the same terrifying disturbances that the Bells had been experiencing. After their bed covers were yanked off and James was slapped, he sprang out of bed exclaiming, "In the name of the Lord, who are you and what do you want?" The entity didn't respond, but the rest of the night was peaceful. And the next morning he explained to the Bells that the culprit was likely an evil spirit, the kind that the Bible talks about. So there you go. The entity's voice strengthened.
I don't remember a lot about poltergeists in the Bible.
Yeah, you got the Gadarene swine, haven't you?
Who?
So I can't remember the story now, but basically,
you're more of a biblical scholar than me. That's fair to say.
I think there was a village in Gadarene or something like that, or I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, so basically there were there's varying interpretations. So there was like people having fits and things like that. And supposedly Jesus pulled the evil spirit out of this guy having a fit and passed it into some swine who then went and run off a cliff or something.
Oh.
Gathering swine. And then there's various people speculating that the guy might have had epilepsy or something.
Yeah. Well, that's why we eat fish on Fridays.
Yeah.
Cool.
And why you have an egg for Easter.
And
an egg like a pig running up a cliff would lay.
And why both Satan and Jesus were referred to as Morning Star in the Bible.
There you go. So it starts becoming louder and louder, this entity, and it starts singing hymns, quoting scripture. It carried on intelligent conversation, so that's good. We're just talking about football or whatever. It once even quoted, word for word, 2 sermons that were preached at the same time on the same day, 13 miles apart. How do you explain that, Chris?
2 separate sermons, same day, 13 miles apart.
Either a very fast ghost witch or can be in 2 places at once.
Well, it didn't.
Like
It said the same day. So if you have one and it's 13 miles apart.
At the same time, on the same day.
Were they the same sermon? Does it say they were separate sermons?
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious by context.
Well, I don't think that you can. I don't think anything's obvious in context so far in this story now.
No, let's just assume for now that they were two different sermons. It makes no sense otherwise.
How loud were the preachers? Baptist preachers are quite loud. Maybe
13 miles apart, so at least, if we're equidistant, at least 6 miles from each.
Yeah, but if they were big sort of John Goodman style preachers, or Brian Blessed, they could probably boom out a few miles, couldn't they?
Yeah, not 6 miles.
I guess, Neil, basically, I'm scratching at the base of the barrel because I can't explain it.
What's happening here, Chris, is your world's falling apart. And
it's falling apart.
You can't
before
explain
my eyes.
it, and
you're
just scrabbling for any rationalisation that you can.
Yeah, the walls are melting around.
There is no life for you here.
Nope. No, this is the end days for me.
Yeah. Quite literally, by the way, things are going. So, word of the supernatural phenomena soon spread outside the settlement, even to Nashville, where the then Major General Andrew Jackson became interested in the so-called Bell Witch.
Oh, dear.
So here we get a
hero,
a celebrity cameo, Chris, from our 7th President of the United States. He wasn't at the time, obviously. He was just just a Major General. I don't know too much about him, to be honest with you.
I know enough about him.
Yeah, fair enough. So, weirdly enough, John Bell Jr., the junior, who owns this house, he fought with General Jackson in the Battle of New Orleans. Anyway, and in 1819, he heard about the disturbances at their home, decided to pay a visit and investigate. And his entourage consisted of several men, well-groomed horses, and a large wagon approached the Bell property. The wagon jolted to a sudden stop. It became stuck in a muddy creek bed, and the horses were unable to pull it, or at least that was what the men thought.
Was it ghost hands?
Well, we'll see. After several minutes of cursing and trying to coax the horses into pulling the wagon, Jackson proclaimed, "By the eternal, boys, that must be the Bell Witch." Then, suddenly, a disembodied female voice told Jackson that they could proceed.
Go on then.
All right, you can come through.
Fuck off.
Your name's down, you can come through. And you should see them later again that evening. They were then able to proceed across the property up the lane into the Bell home. That evening, Jackson told old war stories while his entourage set up their tents in their garden.
God, boring, eh?
Oh, God, this guy's round again.
Fucking hell.
It's like having a double glazing salesman round.
Hey, what's it, cheeky boy?
So one of his men claimed to be a witch tamer. Wicked. He's still getting a bit Pickwick Papers. After several uneventful hours, he pulled out a shiny pistol and proclaimed that its silver bullet would kill any evil spirit they came into contact with. He went on to say that the reason nothing had happened to them was because whatever had been haunting the Bells was scared of his silver bullet. He also pointed out that he had a very large penis. I might have made that the second part up.
And a bright red sports car.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's compensating for something, isn't he? But then, brilliantly, immediately, the man screamed and began jerking his body in different directions, complaining he was being stuck with pins and beaten severely. A strong, swift kick to the man's posterior region from an invisible foot sent him out the front door. So he got kicked up the arse by the ghost witch, basically.
Yeah, stuck with pins.
Angry, the entity spoke up and announced there was yet another fraud in Jackson's party, and she'd identify him the following evening. So at this point, Jackson's men are terrified and they want to leave the Bell farm. And he's like, "No, I'm going to stay, but you can all go out in your tents," because he wants to know who the other fraud is. They went outside to sleep in their tents. It's just while continuously begging Jackson to leave. Well, unless he's out with them, I don't see how they're doing that. But
no, they must have been shouting from the tents.
Yeah, it could be.
Come on, leave the house. Jackson, come on. Come on, you're going to get hurt. AJ, come on. Don't be silly, AJ. You're going to get hurt.
It's not even scared of silver bullets.
It kicked me right. It shattered my rectum, AJ. I don't want that happening to you. I can't ride my horse now.
So,
AJ.
Maybe they were right to do so, because what happened next is not clear. i.e. may never happened. But Jackson and his entourage was spotted in nearby Springfield early the next morning going back to Nashville. Some allege that Jackson later proclaimed, "I would rather fight the British at New Orleans than fight the Bell Witch." I mean, do you think any of that actually happened?
100%. Not sure.
Not sure what a source text is for some of this stuff.
I don't know. It's just hearsay, isn't it? Could probably happened. Let's just say that.
Definitely happened. That's absolute historical fact. That's what we'll set that.
Perfect.
Now, it's getting a bit more feisty. So, well, actually, I'm gonna do this out of.
It's already quite feisty, isn't it?
It's already getting quite feisty. I mean, you've already kicked the future president up the arse, which.
Well, he didn't do that. No.
Oh no, it wasn't. Sorry,
no, I'm
getting. No, it's one of his entourage. To be fair, which he probably quite funny.
Gave it a nice punt.
Yeah, I've never liked that silver pistol guy. He's always been a bit of a cock. I'm going to do slightly out of order actually, because I think I'm going to escalate in terms of how bad it gets. So Betsy Bell's engagement is disrupted. So over time, Betsy Bell became interested in Joshua Gardner, a young man who lived nearby.
It's a good-looking boy.
He is. You looked him up. He's got a super bow tie.
Lovely red sports car.
Lovely red sports car and a silver pistol. Yeah. His D's pretty good as well.
Yeah, it's got sweet. It's got a lovely rat's tail.
Yeah, there's a nice little quiff going on as well there.
Quiff and a rat's tail.
So with the blessings of their parents.
Nice straight fringe.
Nice straight fringe. Is that an earring I spy? That leather jacket. Interesting time.
Very much looks like George Michael in the Faith video, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's standing by a jukebox.
White t-shirt. Well, he's holding an acoustic guitar actually. So yeah.
Yeah. Baby. Good, great song.
It is a good song. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty much just one chord, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I still can't play it.
Yeah. So they got the blessing of their parents, decided to marry. Everyone was happy about their engagement. Well, almost everyone. Guess who disapproves, Chris?
Jackson. AJ.
Yeah, no, his thoughts on the matter are sadly not gone through to history. But I tell you what, Witch Kate, their witch, she's not happy.
Why not?
Well, I don't know, but she became furious and repeatedly ordered Betsy not to marry Joshua. I mean, maybe she knew something they didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like they were secretly brother and sister or something. You don't know in those days.
Or like George Michael, he's secretly gay.
Could be, yeah.
Could be.
He's just not going to be. He's not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. I'm not going to get into why.
Not going to get into
why.
Which
is progressive. If you could see through Tom like me, you'd realise that there's, all of this nonsense is,
But being his beard is not going to lead to a happy life.
It's not going to, it's not going to fulfil you, and he's not going to be happy either.
No.
So Betsy and Joshua's former school teacher, Professor Richard Powell, had been noticeably interested in Betsy for some time and expressed interest in marrying her when she became older. Well, that's not at all sleazy.
Why? Why?
Quite the most vivacious young lady I've taught my under 12.
Your 12-year-old daughter, she's going to be quite a beauty, isn't she, in the future? Stick my name down. I'll give you $500 now.
I'll have first dibs.
It's on delivery. For first dibs.
Fuck's sake. By some accounts, Powell, who was 11 years Betsy's senior, was a student of the occult, ventriloquism, a mathematical genius, and well-versed in horticulture and geology.
Was this by his account?
I also have a silver pistol.
Yes, and a bright red sports car. And I'm also a footballist and a plane driver. Yeah. How many friends do you have?
I have 100 friends. I can beat any man alive.
I have 104 friends.
And he was secretly married to a woman in nearby Nashville.
Oh, no.
Bless the Scott, it gets worse. During the time he lived and taught school at Red River.
The good thing is,
darling, I'll just be going off to Red River for a couple of weeks. It's fine.
The good thing is that woman in Nashville did actually get quite a good country album out of The Deceit.
Well, she did,
so,
It was a big inspiration to Dolly Parton, I believe.
Yeah, it's It's a shame, but often pain does bring out some quite good creative endeavours.
Yeah.
It's human condition, isn't it, mate?
At least you're mining it for something.
Yeah, money.
Yeah, beautiful. the balm to all ills. Lovely, lovely cash.
Whoa.
So secretly married to a woman living nearby, but perceived as a happy-go-lucky bachelor. He expressed his unwavering fondness for Betsy Bell. According to early accounts, he politely expressed his disappointment with Betsy's engagement to Joshua and wished her a long and prosperous marriage.
Well, I am disappointed, but I wish you a long and prosperous marriage. Wink, wink.
I mean, again, they don't...
I'm just a happy-go-lucky bachelor.
They don't get into it, but I'm interested by the fact that he's into the occult and ventriloquism, excuse me. Almost like, somebody who could be throwing voices around.
Yeah, very much so, like the spiritualists.
Mary!
What's that? Oh, no, look, I'll
make the witch very angry.
I'm the witch. Don't marry him. Oh, wow. The Betty couldn't have been me because I'm drinking a glass of water while this is happening.
No, it's just this bewitched that just happens to be perched on my hand.
They didn't.
Maybe
it's just this bewitch which happens to have inhabited this gentleman, this wooden gentleman here with the top hat and the monocle. Hello, I'm the bewitch.
Marry me, the prick.
Don't marry him. Oh, what was that?
Doesn't know anything about maths or the occult.
What was that, Woody? I said, don't marry him.
Apparently, they couldn't go to the river, the fields, or the cave to play without the entity nagging them. Constant pressure was more than Betsy Bell could handle.
Not the play cave.
Oh.
That's the one place we relaxed. Oh dear, got all the bones in there.
I mean, the river and the fields, fair enough, but can't even have a bit of peace and quiet in the cave.
Can't even have in the play cave.
Anyway, as of Easter Monday, 1821, she broke off the engagement.
Oh.
I mean, they introduced this perverted teacher,
the
fact that he's into the occult and ventriloquism. I don't think that actually goes anywhere.
No, it's just letting you know.
Okay, it's just that there's a lot of asides that don't really... Because, but I think... I mean, I don't know if we're supposed to think he's just... Let's have a look, actually. There's a link to him, so let's have a look. Professor Richard Powell. What does he get up to? Oh, and his full name... Professor Richard Rowell Ptolemy Powell, like one of the Egyptian pharaohs.
Ptolemy.
Oh, Ptolemy, is that how you pronounce that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Professor Richard Rowell Ptolemy Powell.
Yeah.
Oh, and he ends up getting married to Elizabeth Betsy Bell. In fact, some have stated that Powell was the brains behind Kate. Although the author feels this is possibly the case, he is not fully convinced. Oh, I think we're going to have to come back to that because it.
Well, considering this all started, considering he married her after all this had been going on.
Exactly, yeah. So, it entirely looks like it must have just been some moody pedo. I mean, that's a shock twist. Right, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I thought escalate somewhere else, but I hadn't realised this cheeky little character was going to pop out of the woodwork. So.
And you do want, I don't know, there's a lot of moody pedos in history, isn't it? Do you think it's just because they wanted to marry women before they lost all their teeth and stuff?
Well, no, I don't know, because it's kind of like... I remember
before they got so sick they couldn't have children at the age of 17?
Yeah.
It seemed to be a lot more prevalent that men would... I mean, obviously men still... some men, there's still the thing of men sort of going out with much younger women, but it seems to have been more prevalent in those days. But I guess that I don't know what it is. I think it's that thing about wanting to have a family or having kids and stuff, and so
yeah.
And also, then they've definitely not banged anyone else.
Well, I think that's probably what it is. To be honest with you, depressingly, it's kind of more of a. Because I suspect as well. I honestly don't know, truth be told, but there's probably something as well in the societal expectations for that time that, like, you probably like the bloke that.
Well, the man would.
The man
so
should have some kind of like livelihood.
Well, the man would
marry,
would be older before he married, yeah, because he would be secure.
Yeah, he'd need to sort of like have proven that.
You need to crack on and have a job and get a house and that before you could marry.
Don't know. Could be. Could be.
Don't know.
So the Bell Witch sets her sights on John Bell. So prior to that, the disturbances had. So I'm reading this out of order, but then this doesn't make sense. So the disturbances decreased after Betsy and Joshua's engagement ended. So I swapped paragraphs around, but then it reads like I haven't. Anyway, whatever. It's very edifying for the listener. But the entity continued to express disdain for John Bell, relentlessly vowing to kill him.
Who's John Bell again?
So John Bell's the guy who owns the house. So he's the dad.
Oh, okay.
Betsy's his daughter, fine. And Kate is the ghost witch.
Yeah,
by all accounts. So she's been relentlessly trying to kill him, and he's been experiencing episodes of twitching in his face and difficulty swallowing for almost a year at this point. And this malady grew worse with time.
Sounds like he's been getting some of the same toxins as come off those windows I'm selling.
Could well be
similar.
Well, I mean, in actual fact, somebody does speculate this on somewhere else. So by the fall of the 1820s, declining health had confined him to the house, where the malicious entity continuously removed his shoes when he tried to walk and slapped his face when he recovered from his numerous seizures. I mean, this is why you want to build hospitals.
I don't know whether or was the spirit trying to slap him out of the seizure.
Well, maybe just trying to.
It's not what you should do. You should put a pillow under someone's head and put them in the recovery position and leave them to have their seizure. That's what you should do.
Does the ghost know much about basic first aid?
I don't think they did. To be honest, I doubt doctors knew that back in those days. They probably just they'd strap people down if they were having a fit, wouldn't they? So that they ended up injuring themselves.
Yeah, well, back when we'd seen from the Greenbrier ghost and all of that. Was that a ghost? Was that? But yeah, the doctor in that was kind of like a bit useless. So who knows? I think some would know better, some might not. But so his declining health confines him to the house. Yep, she's slapping him and chucking his shoes across the thing, cursing and chastising old Jack Bell, the nickname she'd given him. Yeah. I'm not even going to call you John Bell, you prick. I'm going to call you old Jack Bell. That's
just losing the thread.
Yeah. He breathed his last breath on the morning of December 20th, 1820, after slipping into a coma a day earlier.
Oh, just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Shame, isn't it?
Well,
they hadn't got anything, so it was actually...
Yeah, it's just as well, couldn't think what to buy him. He's such a fussy, kind of like, So immediately after his death, his family found a vial of strange black liquid in the cupboard. John Jr. sprinkled 2 drops on the cat's tongue. The cat jumped up in the air, rolled over in midair, and was dead when it hit the floor. The entity then exclaimed, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." It's a pretty...
I mean, that's a weird way for a cat to die, to jump up, flip over in midair, do 180, and then land on its back. It's a bit of sort of a Looney Tunes kind of thing.
I mean, there are elements of this tale that, defy...
Don't ring true.
Yeah. Maybe not as a...
There's a lot of it. Some of it's bound to be embellished, but I think we can all agree that the main thread of the story is true.
I mean, look, it's, they've just... So they found some poison. They tested it on the cat because, that cat's annoying you, so might as well.
Well, no wonder you've got... If you're killing cats like that, no wonder you've got so many rats gnawing at your fucking bed.
They tossed the mysterious vial into the fireplace and it burst into a bright blue flame and shot up the chimney. You'll be pleased to know, though, that his funeral was very well attended. 3 preachers, 2 Methodists and 1 Baptist eulogised him. As the crowd of mourners began leaving the graveyards...
Was that it? It was very well attended, 3 priests.
No, there was lots and lots of people from miles and miles away alongside the 3 preachers. But
how many religious men do you think are going to come to your funeral, Neil?
Because
I know.
Maybe one.
What about any of the sons of Colin? Have you boosted any of them up to sort of priesthood yet, or is it still just you?
No, it's just me. When I go, the whole thing collapses as far as I'm concerned.
Fuck it.
Aprimula deluge.
Can't make any money when you're dead.
So as they're all, like trying to grieve, the Bell Witch entity was laughing and singing a song about a bottle of brandy.
I'll have the bottle of brandy while you're doing your eulogy. Oi, oi, oi.
Of course, yeah, but all do with Esther.
Have a little tip, pour it on his nipples, 'cause he's dead, and I made him so. Oi, oi, oi. It's like a Dropkick Murphy song. Oi, oi, oi.
Well, that was really, really bad, because you'd be like one of the mourners there. You're like, actually, that's quite catchy.
Yeah. That's good, that. I'm going to write it down, put it in the time capsule and bury it in Boston. One
day some lads will be able to use this. The time is not ripe yet for this music, but
we still have to wait for the rise and fall of the punks.
It must be post this. It didn't stop until the last mourner had left the graveyard, but then became non-existent after, or almost non-existent after John Bell's demise, almost as if it had fulfilled its purpose.
Just to make his life
shit. Just
chuck his shoes around.
Just want to ruin the dad's life. Make sure that the daughter doesn't marry her one true love, and marry some pervy teacher instead.
Well, didn't her one true love already have a wife?
No, that's the guy she's going to marry. Well, let's have a look what happens to Joshua Gardner. So let's have a look at some of them, because it's got
So the pervy teacher already has a wife.
Yeah. So okay.
Oh, so he's all
the shit. He is.
He's got a wife. He's into occulting. He likes them young.
Yeah.
All right.
So Joshua Gardner, who's the guy she was originally going to marry, didn't have many direct encounters with Kate the Ghost. He was a fiance. Yada yada. It's proven. Despite having never said anything bad about Gardner, she provided no reason for her aversion to the engagement, and say you will not have happiness with him, and future generations will see it true. So she reluctantly broke off.
Right.
Oh, and then she was worried that because she'd voiced a disagreement with her dad, and then he died, that the same thing could happen to the guy that she'd loved.
So she married the occult.
Yeah, so he married, had 2 kids, became a successful farmer, and became a magistrate. So there you go. And let's have a look.
So he did all right then.
So let's have a look what happened to her. So Elizabeth married a former school teacher, this Professor Richard Powell.
Former school. I thought it was just a former school teacher. I didn't realise it was hers.
Yeah, that was the thing. He was like, teaching her maths or whatever, and then it was kind of like, oh yeah. Settling in the nearby community later became known as Cedar Hill.
Hill.
Removed it. Had 8 kids, only 4 of which dated adulthood.
What happened to his previous wife?
Well, this is what I'm trying to find out. So,
did he just fuck off?
Yeah, well, I reckon it's all a bit like Jane Eyre, isn't it? He probably had her in the attic and then just will not mention her again. Don't worry about that cackling upstairs. It's probably a ghost witch.
Again.
This happens to you a lot, doesn't it? God.
Yeah. Whatever. Shut up.
He died.
Have you any homework?
So he died in a civil war battle, apparently. Presumably fighting on the wrong side at the age of 23. Okay, so bloody hell.
What? No,
sorry. This is one of their kids. Only 4 of the children, one of which died in the Civil War. Okay, yeah. I was going to say, bloody hell. Right, let's. Yeah, well, okay. Well, Betsy lived until 82, so that's something. Well, let's
not bad.
Let's see what happened to Richard Powell, the school teacher. Oh, that link takes me to a picture of a house. That's useful. I think.
So is that the end of the ghostings?
That's kind of like what's happened in terms of the ghostings, and now I'm just trying to look up to see what happened to the guy she married.
The hero of the story.
Well, yeah, the antagonist or protagonist. I'm not quite sure.
It's complicated, man. It's like the Joker. He's an anti-hero.
You can't tell what he's going to do. Yeah, surprisingly, without the knowledge of anyone in the Red River settlement at the time, Richard Powell's marriage to Betsy was not his first. He early married Esther Mackenzie Scott of Dickinson County. He was 18 years his senior.
Money.
Circumstances of the union are unknown, but in those days especially, it was very odd for the wife to be older than the husband, especially by almost 2 decades. Socially, Richard Powell never mentioned his hush-hush marriage, but referenced it in his personal diary. Esther Scott conveniently died in 1821, a few months before John Bell Sr. died. The plot thickens. This is turning into a true crime podcast, Chris.
I believe that's what we call clearing house meal.
There's a tale here, but it's not the one that's the subtext.
It's not about a ghost.
Than the text.
Not about a ghost witch.
It's about some absolute piece of shit he made up with.
Mm-hmm. Who wanted to bang one of his young students
in the years of
who had married an older woman for money.
Yeah, by the sounds of it.
Got rid of her, got rid of the father, got rid of the cat who he found out was investigating.
Yeah. Cats know.
They do. Well, cats can see ghosts, so the cat would have been going, there's no fucking ghosts here.
What are you talking about?
It's this cunt. It's this cunt. Friday's voice is not very good either.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I'm astonished any of you are being taken in by this shit, to be honest with you.
This is fucking stupid. What's going on?
Well,
that's not like that glass doesn't even have, that's a trick glass. There's no water in it. Fucking hell, look, I'll show you. I'll turn it upside down and the water disappears. You can get it from joke shops down the pier.
I mean, but what's fascinating is that nobody seems to really. Well, I don't know. They do say some people might have thought he was involved, but they don't seem to lead with that, which just seemed to be the obvious conclusion that you draw. Let's have a look. Then say in years that followed, he became involved in.
But you've got a very suspicious mind, Neil.
Yeah. So he.
I would obviously jump to the conclusion that it was a ghost witch.
Yeah.
rather than everything. And sort of ignore all the things pointing to this bloke.
Well, here's another great ironic twist. So he gave up schoolmastering.
Was it by sort of hushed up mutual consent?
Almost certainly.
Gardening leave.
Yeah, let's just say you got a bad.
It was phased out.
You can't do it anymore. Powell served as sheriff of Robertson County between 1830 and 33.
Sheriff's always good.
Yeah, like Joe
Arpaio.
Was elected to the House of Representatives in 1833. And he made a name for himself as a lawmaker of great ability and gained wide popularity throughout the state. Was also a justice of the peace. His personal diary alluded to earlier was his ciphering book, a 271-page collection of advanced math problems, genealogical notes, and other information.
He sort of seems like a high-functioning psychopath.
Yeah, makes no mention of the Bell Witch disturbances, mainly because he did it all himself. However, at the pinnacle of his political career, he suffered a massive stroke. It rendered him unable to fend for himself and his family. They purchased a keel boat to ship goods to New Orleans in hopes of raising money. All goods were lost when a misguided steamboat crashed into the vessel.
I feel sorry for the family.
Yeah, so they became broke.
Fuck this guy.
Pretty much. A number of his friends, including a certain Joshua Gardner, so I think this was the guy who
stayed in the house.
No, he was the guy she originally originally wanted to marry. I think submitted a petition to get financial relief for them, but it was rejected. He sounds like a mensch. Yeah. Anyway, and so he died in 1848, buried in an unmarked grave near Cedar Hill community.
Well, they had this thing which they've always had in America, and they had it during the Great Depression as well, where the government would give kind of different areas a certain amount of money for financial aid to help people who were in real strife because, the Dust Bowl crops had failed or they'd lost all their money because the markets had crashed. But the people who are often in charge of it have had sort of a mindset that people who are asking for charity shouldn't be given charity because it will make them lazy.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, well, come back when you've got some money, and then maybe we can talk. Kind of
well, because it's like
it's like that. Like having money is like
it shows God wants you to have it, doesn't it? Yeah,
exactly. It's this kind of thing that people tell themselves, religious people, that if they've inherited money or whatever, it's because they're more like having money equals moral superiority, and being poor is a show of moral deficiency, which is just like an incredible fucking mind twist.
It's a little bit of a reach from what Jesus taught, but hey. Well, I mean, I don't know. You heard about the prosperity.
Yeah, but you got to read between the lines.
The prosperity gospel, which is even more sickening, where it's basically like, no matter how poor you are, just make sure you send money to us, because the more you send, the richer you'll become.
The more you'll get. Yeah, I know. Fucking hell. Talk about
just
fucking pyramid. Like, not
well, no, it's not. It's just literally just a con artistry for the poorest people. Completely like you've got nothing else to do.
Well, it's like I mean, you're better off buying lottery tickets.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a tiny, albeit possible, chance of return there.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Just don't care about anyone else but themselves.
Nope.
Well, apparently he was never around when Kate put on demonstration, so Kate was the sort of ghost witch, and he neither spoke nor wrote of her. I don't know. He's my prime suspect, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, it's him. Yeah, and he bumped off his ex-wife and his father-in-law so he could get the farm.
We've definitely decided on what we think's happened.
Oh, well, it's obvious, isn't it?
I'd have to research more to sort of prove the facts, Chris, which is never going to happen. So we're just going to go with that.
Well, unless we do a side pod where we actually go into it and do it into a true crime thing as a spin-off
we could do
pod.
that
we could do that
for one as well. The ones where we'll solve it afterwards. I mean, we'll just go. There's a couple. So that the entity bade farewell but returned. So there's a couple of extra sightings.
What will we call it? Urbane Legends Through the Looking Glass.
I like it. We'll give it some thought for Series 4. Right.
I can already see the cover. It will be us dressed as pirates, and I'll do a sort of jaunty sea shanty as the intro. But it'll have nothing to do with pirates or sea shanties.
Sounds good to me. I like it. Non sequiturs.
Cool.
Well, there's something about sea shanties becoming quite popular a couple of years back.
I was talking about, do you reckon you could make money doing sea shanties a few years back?
Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe it was just that, or maybe I read something somewhere.
Because,
I don't know, kind of like when you get all these people like Mumford and Sons and all that sort of thing, innit? And all, what's the other one's called? Beardy Mountain Folk.
Coldplay?
No, not Coldplay. It's sort of like, it's kind of like, I don't know what you call it, like neo-folk or something like that.
Yeah. Neo-folk.
Acoustic guitars and sort of...
Neo-folk pop rock.
There's something I quite like, was it Fleet Foxes? They're quite good.
I don't really know any of that stuff.
Some nice tunes. It's like, a lot of singing in harmony, and like nice acoustic guitars and stuff.
Ugh. I like shouting out a tune.
That's good as well. You're very much G.G. Allen on no one, aren't you? If they're not flinging shit in my face while they're screaming over a power cord, I don't want to know. So this ghost that disappeared in 1821 after he got what he wanted. Apparently, he did return as predicted. She. Oh, you see, I'm revealing my bias.
Come on, fucking.
So
sis.
The entity visited John Bell's widow, Lucy Bell, and told her that it was leaving but returned in 7 years in 1821. The entity returned in 1828 as promised. So, that's good. Keeping the promises.
Nice, yeah. Prompt.
Punctual. Most of the return visit centred on John Bell Jr., with whom the entity discussed the origin of life, civilizations, Christianity, and the need for a major spiritual awakening. Of particular significance were its predictions of the Civil War and other major events, some of which she missed. So that's nice. It's sort of come back. It's like, well, I didn't like your old man, but I'll come back and have a good chat with you.
You're all right. Come here.
Have a few brandies. Basically, you've just got a drunk ghost, haven't you? Just massively take against some people for absolutely no reason. And this is my second theory.
then calms down for a bit and starts banging on about the dawn of civilization. You know, a lot of people will say it started in Babylonia, but you know, there's been a lot of recent archaeological finds in Turkey, which suggests that 5,000 years before there was advanced civilizations. Oh, do you mind if I have another drink? I'll be honest with you. I think it was aliens.
And so it bade farewell after 3 weeks, but promised to visit his most direct descendant in 107 years. That year would be 1935, and the closest living direct descendant at the time was a Nashville physician, Dr. Charles Bailey Bell, a neurologist and John Bell Sr.'s great-grandson.
Right.
Well, in 1934, Dr. Bell published a book about the Bell Witch, likely to raise awareness of the spirit's impending return.
Do you know what? Right, this is an intergenerational grift. Yeah, you're like, do you know what? Like, I'm gonna grift this up, and then I'm gonna say, and I'll be back in 135 years, because then my descendants, they can then make some money off this grift too. Like, that's some forward planning grifting.
Apparently, this book contains the first ever account of the alleged conferences between the entity and John Bell Jr. in 1828, excuse me.
Drawn from where?
So,
diaries or something?
No, this is the promise of coming back in 1828 was only revealed in this chap's book in 1934. Oh yeah, by the way, they promised they'd come back in 1935, but this is the first you're hearing of it. Don't you worry about that. Get your cat, it's fine. The author's father, Dr. Joel Thomas Bell, had allegedly taken notes during the conferences, and upon his death, passed them down generation to generation. He published no follow-up to his 1934 book. He died in 1945 and is buried at a cemetery in Tennessee. Right. Did the Bell Witch return in 1935 as promised? Some say she did not return, or if she did, they're not aware of it. But many say that she never left the place to begin with. Okay. So I think it was an attempted grift, but
it's
a good idea. I mean, because you know that your family, you looked into history and you're like, well, could let everyone know it was just some like pervy schoolmaster, or we could,
it killed people,
or maybe I'll try and make a bit of coin out of this myself. One of the witches coming back after 120 years. Yeah. I like that though. The idea it's like, well, I'll come back in 7 years, then I'll come back 120 years.
Yeah, I've got some stuff. I've got a few
going on.
To do. Time moves differently in ghost
different,
space.
You're not like you've got the mortal cares.
Yeah, I mean, you realise that when you're in ghost space, that time's not linear. So, like for me, it'll be, I've got to be honest. I just need to go to the toilet, and then I'll pop back. It'll be 135 years in your human terms, but for me, nothing at all.
So, the entity that tormented the family is often blamed for unexplainable manifestations that occur towards the old Bell farm today. Faint sounds of people talking and children playing can sometimes be heard in the area, and it's not uncommon to see candle lights dance through the dark fields late at night.
What's that, fireflies?
So it would be especially difficult. Some pictures taken in the area show mist, orbs of light, and other phenomena, including human-like figures who were not present when the pictures were taken. Could these phenomena be related to the haunting of John Bell's family? Probably not.
I'll let you decide.
You be the judge. So the cause of the torment remains a mystery. Numerous theories have been put forth, all have been debunked. However, today most researchers agree that something had to have caused the incidents at Red River in the early 1800s that gave rise to the legends we know today.
Yeah, some absolute shit of a bloke.
I think we were pretty sure that we agree on what we think caused it.
But listen to our spin-off series, the Bell Witch, the true behind the curtain of the Bell Witch by Urbane Legends Through the Looking Glass.
Episode 2. Oh no, there's nothing to this. Chris and Neil realised they were wrong. Actually, no, from Fedis' alibis. That's one thing they do say, that he wasn't actually around when these manifestations occurred. But the fact that he's a ventriloquist, that's really dodge. And as they would say, follow the money. I mean, who's gaining from this shit? One guy is. I see that. Yeah. Anyway, there you go, Chris. So that's the legend of the Bell Witch. I mean, there's been. I'm just gonna have a quick look on Wiki to see about like how it's influenced other
What it's
bits and
been in.
pieces. I mean, there was a book written as well. I haven't talked about this guy, but it was apparently because he took over the family farm. So a chap called Martin Van Buren Ingram. So Martin Van Buren, I think, was kind of like an American president, maybe one of the early ones. But Martin Van Buren Ingram was
Really?
yeah,
A Dutchman?
indeed, yeah, or he was of Dutch descent. Yeah, he didn't go down. I think he got sort of I can't remember what it is. It might have been Jackson because he was he got taken over by someone who called the log cabin. Basically, he only was a one termer because everyone thought he was a bit snooty, or they kind of like the political campaign that came after with the guy. I can't remember who replaced him, but he sort of portrayed him as being a bit sort of always like a rich.
Martin Van Buren.
Oh, he was preceded by Andrew Jackson, yeah, who.
No, Andrew Jackson was before him.
He's before him. Sorry, sir.
William Harrison was after him.
That's right, and he called himself like the log cabin president or some nonsense. He came up with some mythical story about how he'd been like grown up in the woods.
Who Van Buren did?
No. This guy that was how he sort of ran his election. I mean, he's
Harrison.
like, you don't want Van Buren, he's a posh twat. And
he died. Harrison died 31 days after his inauguration. Shortest president in history.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There you go. That's cabin life.
Well, I don't think you ever actually. Oh, look, we'll tell you what. We'll save that one for the sub podcast or whatever it is we're going to do. We could do a quick thing into the. I mean, So, just looking at some of the kind of like, So it was turned into a book. I'm just trying to look when this book was written by. Oh yeah, so in 1890, Van Buren Ingram wrote the book. I'm not quite sure how that all plays in, so I don't know how much of it comes from his accounts there. And I think he sort of got it from the family and stuff. But anyway, whatevs. But let's have a look at the. So in terms of like culture, then so. There's been films made about this, and it's supposedly inspired like things like the Blair Witch Project and Poltergeist and the Paranormal Activity.
Anything ghosts.
The Witch, which a movie I really like, that was from a few years back. Amityville Horror, all of those kind of things. There's little bits and pieces there because I don't think we got into it actually, but there was in one of the other stories. There's some business about or being involved near to an Indian burial ground or Native American burial ground.
Well, that just sounds like that's been tacked on.
Again, it's one of those. Well, it's a bit like with the as we discovered when we looked into the Amityville Horror. It's one of those things, isn't it? So it's been on a load of television. It doesn't seem to have been in Supernatural, which is unfortunate. You think they would have done something, but it has been in a story of America's Monsters entitled Forest Monsters, Mothman and the Bell Witch. That's a good team up for you. And been a load of music and theatre as well. So a Danish metal band released a song called The Bell Witch. A doom metal band called Bell Witch.
We all remember that.
Yeah. Merle Kilgore recorded a song called The Bell Witch in '64. Bunch of other musical acts, and there's been a load of theatre stuff. But a few films. So it feels like one that's quite well known. Greatest ghost story of all time, or greatest American ghost story? Don't know. You be the judge. But I think there's quite a lot to that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, there's loads to it, mate. So shall we go through our scoring system?
Yes, let's.
So Neil, what score are you giving it for spookiness?
Yeah, I think it's quite spooky. So, you imagine it's the classic haunted house thing, isn't it? And only it's a witch this time. I'm not quite sure why it was a witch. I think I might have read somewhere that if anything was going on that was a bit occulty, they blamed witches effectively in those day and age. Because they're still banging on about Salem witch trials 100 and odd years later. So, I think a malevolent spirit comes to your house determined to kill you, and then he's break up your daughter's, relationship. Nobody wants to piss off a ghost witch, do they? Have it start taking against them. I think that's quite spooky, and then it ends up sort of killing you. all the while in between, it's just like slapping you around the face and sticking pins in you and chucking your shoes about the place. It's yeah, I think that would spook you up right nice, especially in that day and age. So I'm going to give it an 8.
8. So I think a little bit lower for me. I mean, quite a lot of the stuff that it is meant to have done is actually quite kind of slapstick comedy, like booting someone up the arse, chucking someone's shoes about.
It's got a sense of humour.
Giving
do you know
people,
what I mean? He's a poltergeist.
It's kind of like giving people a bit of a slap, like Three Stooges. I mean, it doesn't seem to have, so it. I mean, do you know what? Like, it does a lot of talking, but it's not doing a lot. It's not a lot of action. So. And the bloke did live for quite a long time, despite its mucking about with him. I don't know.
Dead within 3 years, Chris.
Is dead within 3 years?
4 years.
Yeah, but it's still quite a while, isn't it? I don't know. Like, I'm not finding it particularly spooky myself. More kind of funny. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Fair enough.
So believability. Well. So there's a lot written about it, and these do seem like historical characters. How much stuff like the celebrity cameos and stuff is just embellishment afterwards, is for the viewer to decide, really, listener. Something definitely went on, and I think kind of said where we kind of fall and probably what was really going on here, but that kind of makes it believable that, these people did think something was happening and actually it was probably just some fucking selfish sociopath who was basically behind it. So it being a supernatural entity, that will probably, I'm not seeing lots to suggest that really. Although there's talking stuff. But there's a lot there and something definitely went on. So believability, I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, it's a similar score for similar reasons. I think I'll probably go with an 8 as well. Identical score for similar reasons. I think, again, it's not whether or not we believe it now. So do I believe that there was a witch that haunted things? No, not really. But do I believe that some stuff had happened? Or could I believe? Or is there enough material there? I mean, the one thing is I don't know how believable the primary sources and things like that are. But having said that, there's plenty in there that's it's interesting, and some of the slapstick elements kind of take them away a bit from me. But yeah, there's there are real people, real documented people, real documented deaths. These things were all reported. I mean, again, you can imagine that some of the papers and stuff have probably embellished some of these things, but nonetheless, it's still interesting. So yeah, not believing that it all happened, but believing that something happened. I think the believability itself, I'll give an 8 as well.
Cool. Okay. Reach, Neil?
I'm not sure how far outside of America this one goes. It's obviously been around for a couple of 100 years. Yeah, I think it's got reasonable reach. I don't think it's not one I'd heard of before, but I'm surprised actually because it's quite a lot to it. There's quite, you've got a president involved and all sorts. So I'm surprised, some of the that we've looked into, there's far less going on. So I'm actually surprised it hasn't got a greater reach, but I don't know how well people will know about it. I suspect it's probably known fairly well around America. I don't know though. But yeah, but I suspect it's probably got a smaller reach than it should have. So I'm going to go on the fence on this one and give it a 5.
5. So it's been in lots of stuff, and I mean, I've not heard of it, so that's usually a bad sign. But I'm not sure how international it is. I think it seems to be quite well known in the US. But again, 3 times. So I'm going to give it a 6 now. Why not?
Why not?
So, narrative premise. Well, there's a lot there. There's lots of feisty characters. It's more interesting than the story. Well, it's they're calling it a witch, but it's kind of a ghost.
Yeah, it's a
not
haunting,
really a witch.
more than a witch.
It's a haunting. I mean, there's a lot there. There's lots of characters, lots of detail in it. I think we're definitely not the first people to have seen through the looking glass to the potential seconds more true narrative underneath. But I think that's good. I mean, you could actually do a podcast about this on its own and look at it properly. And come in with an agenda, which we definitely would, and try and completely just look at evidence which points to the conclusion which you've made before we started.
Character assassinate somebody 100 years.
Yeah, unlike any other true crime podcast. So I think it's got quite a lot, to be honest. The main evil protagonist isn't original. But I like its tricksy nature of chucking shoes around and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's pretty strong, so I'm going to give it an 8-0.
Yeah, and again, similar, or probably, same score for similar reasons. Again, it's kind of like, I think we're in agreement on most of this one this week, Chris, because, I think there's an awful lot to it. The fact that it's real people is interesting. The fact that then just reading through it, then this kind of like schoolmaster pops up, and he's clearly got something more going on than there seems to be on the surface. That's quite interesting. So, an 8 for me as well.
And that gives it a very high score of 56 Urbane Legend points. That's very good. That's very much in the top echelons. So if let us know if you've got any incriminating evidence that we can use in our character assassination podcast, which we will be looking to start developing by emailing us at urb.legends.podcast@gmail.com. But apart from that, if you want any windows or anything, same address. Or if you want to get any of the upcoming tour dates or ticket information for Neil's upcoming reunion tour with Backstreet Boys, then same one. But apart from that,
yourself a cameo of me, Get
yourself a cameo of Neil. Yeah, that's coming soon. Not too expensive.
No, it's $4. So I'm actually undercutting $5. So that should, value for money. I'm all about it.
Yeah, you've been trying to undercut Cisco for a long time, haven't you? So that would be good, because his is, I can't remember, $80 or something. Well, who knows?
I'll admit I may not be as big a draw as Cisco, but 20 Ciscos, or a 20th of a Cisco. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, you may be a 20th of a Cisco.
Oh,
I think that's fair. Cool. And that's it. So we will see you next week, or we won't see you. You'll hear us. Goodbye.
Bye.